Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into the weeds with Sweden's Military Intelligence and Security Service, you know it as MST.
Right, that acronym. Much easier than the full Swedish name.
Definitely. Militära Underrättelse och Säkerhetstjänsten. Yeah, MST works. So we've looked mainly at an official overview document to figure out, what they do, how they're set up, what makes them unique.
Exactly. The goal isn't secret spilling, it's more about understanding the basics. How does this piece fit into Sweden's whole security puzzle? Just getting a solid grasp.
Okay, let's get started then. So MST came about July 1st, 1994. It wasn't just created out of thin air, though.
No, it was a merger. Took over from two previous bodies, the USL and USK, Underrättelse och Säkerhetsledningen, and Underrättelse och Säkerhetskontoret. Bit of restructuring, you could say.
A consolidation.
Yeah.
And they're physically located right in the Swedish Armed Forces headquarters in Stockholm.
Yeah. We even have the coordinates if you're into that level of detail. 59 degrees north, 18 degrees east, roughly.
Puts them right at the heart of things, militarily speaking.
Absolutely. Shows that integration.
And resources. Well, back in 2018, the budget was reported at almost 900 million Swedish krona. 895 million, to be exact.
That's a significant number. It gives you an idea of the scale.
It does. Leadership now is Major General Thomas Nilsson, with Henrik Garmer as deputy director. And they do have a website for sarvelsmakten.se if you want the official source.
Okay, so what's their actual job? It's kind of twofold, isn't it?
Yeah, that's key. They do foreign intelligence looking outwards, but also military security and counterintelligence looking inwards, protecting the armed forces.
It's that dual role. Gathering intel on external threats for the government and the military, but also making sure the military itself is secure.
So providing that intelligence picture on, say, potential foreign military threats or instability abroad.
Right. But here's a crucial point.
Yeah.
They don't do signals intelligence. SIGINT, that's not must.
Okay, so who does that?
That's handled by a completely separate civilian agency, the Swedish National Defense Radio Establishment, or FRA. They handle the electronic eavesdropping, essentially.
Yeah. Interesting split. So MUST isn't listening to radio signals or internet traffic. FRA does that.
Precisely. And there's another line drawn when it comes to domestic stuff.
Ah, yes. MUST is legally barred from gathering intel inside Sweden on Swedes, generally speaking.
Generally, yes. There's one specific exception, though.
Which links back to their military security role.
Exactly. They can investigate threats directed at the armed forces. Things like sabotage, espionage, targeting military secrets or personnel, or someone trying to infiltrate the military.
So if someone's trying to steal plans for a new fighter jet, them MUST might get involved.
Correct, but general domestic security. Counterterrorism within Sweden. Civilian counterintelligence, that's not MUST.
That falls to SEPO, the Swedish Security Service. They're the main domestic security agency, the civilian counterpart, you might say.
It's a very clear division of labor. Military intelligence and security is MUST. Domestic security is SEPO. Signals intelligence is FRA.
Keeps things compartmentalized. Okay, so how is MUST actually structured inside?
Well, it's broken down into departments. Makes sense.
First one is UNDK, the Underrättelsekontoret Intelligence Office.
And their job is pretty much what it sounds like, getting strategic intelligence, the kind of stuff the top brass Central Command, Ministry of Defense need for big decisions.
And supporting Swedish troops deployed overseas, right? Giving them the intel they need on the ground.
Yep. Then you've got Säkerhetstjänsten, the security office.
Security. So this is the counterintelligence part?
Yeah.
And more.
Yeah, it's broad. They handle counterintelligence, protecting against spies and infiltration, but also cybersecurity, electronic warfare defense for the military, cryptography for secure comms, and even personnel vetting.
Vetting, like background checks.
Essentially, yeah. Making sure people with access are trustworthy. So SEC is really about protecting the armed forces' secrets, systems, and people from internal and external threats.
Okay, UNDK looks out, SEC looks in, defensively speaking. What else?
Then there's a third one, KSI, Kontoret for Särskild Inhämtning, Office for Special Acquisition.
Special acquisition. Sounds intriguing.
And it is. This is apparently the most secretive part of MUST. Their focus is espionage abroad.
So, running agents, human intelligence overseas.
Exactly. Human T, liaison with foreign agencies, clandestine operations. The overview document we use basically says, we don't know much publicly about KSI.
Right. The classic secretive branch. Makes you wonder what kind of skills they need there. Human intelligence is a tough game.
It really is. And that secrecy is pretty standard for units doing that kind of work. It's always that tension, isn't it? Transparency versus operational necessity.
Definitely. Now, MUST doesn't operate in a vacuum. It works with other agencies too, even if they aren't part of MUST.
Right. We mentioned FRA already. For signals intelligence, they likely work closely together.
Like maybe MUST identifies a person of interest through human sources, and FRA gets tasked to see if they can pick up their communications.
That kind of synergy seems logical, yeah.
Right.
Then there's also FOI, the Swedish Defense Research Agency. They bring the science and tech expertise.
Research and development support.
And FMV, the Swedish Defense Material Administration, they handle buying all the military kit. So MST's intelligence would feed into what kind of equipment FMV needs to procure, presumably.
It all interconnects. Intelligence informs research, which informs procurement, which supports operations, which generates more intelligence needs.
It's a cycle. These connections are vital for the whole defense posture.
We mentioned Major General Thomas Nilsson is the current director, but here's an interesting detail. Most of the staff at MST are actually civilians.
Yeah, that might seem counterintuitive for a military intelligence agency.
It does a bit. Why do you think that is?
Well, modern intelligence needs incredibly specialized skills. Think language experts, data scientists, political analysts, technical specialists. You don't necessarily need a military background for all of that.
True. You need the deep subject matter expertise. Military personnel bring the operational understanding. Civilians bring other types of deep knowledge.
It's probably about getting the best people for highly specific jobs. Though you could ask if that mix ever causes integration challenges with the purely military side.
That's a fair point. Worth thinking about. We should also probably touch on the past leadership just briefly. Gives a sense of history.
Sure. Before Nilsson, Lena Hallen was director from 2019 to 2023. Before her, Gunnar Carlson, Stefan Christensen, Håkan Pettersson, Håkan Siren, and going right back to the start, Eric Rosander in 1993, just before the official formation.
So a line of succession there guiding the agency through different periods.
Seeing that list helps understand the continuity, perhaps shifting focuses over time as the strategic landscape changed.
Okay, so just to really cement this in everyone's mind, MUST is military intelligence and security.
Right. Looking outwards for foreign threats, inwards for military security.
But not signals intelligence, that's FRA.
Correct. Civilian agency.
And not general domestic security or civilian counterintelligence, that's SAPO.
Got it. 3 key players.
Yeah.
MS, FRA, SIPO, each with their specific lane.
And our info today, it came primarily from that official overview document, which itself cited sources like budget figures from the National Financial Management Authority and an Armed Forces info folder.
So pretty solid official sources for the basic structure and mandate, even if the operational details, especially for KSI, are understandably kept under wraps.
Right. So wrapping up our deep dive on MUST, dual role, foreign intel, military security, clear limits on domestic work, and no SIGINT. 3 main departments: intelligence, UNDK, security, SEC, and the very hush-hush special acquisition, KSI.
And the bigger picture here is that deliberate structure Sweden has chosen. Dividing tasks between MUST, FRA, and SAPO seems designed for specialization, but also probably for checks and balances.
Yeah, preventing any one agency from having too broad a scope, maybe.
Could be. It reflects a specific philosophy on how to manage intelligence and security.
Which brings us to a final thought for you, the listener. Think about this division of labor. What are the real pros and cons of splitting up intelligence tasks so distinctly? Between military and civilian, foreign and domestic, human and signals intelligence.
Does that specialization make things sharper, more focused, or does it risk creating gaps, maybe stovepipes where information doesn't flow as easily as it should between the agencies, especially when threats are complex and cross boundaries?
It's a crucial question for any country organizing its security services, something to definitely mull over.